One of my favorite moves is a single leg reverse kickback. We're going to do it with a bent knee, and we're just going to try and make sure we're focusing on that glute phase of the hip extension. I like to use a bench because it gives me a little bit of that negative eccentric contraction to build that glute a little bit higher. We can also do this laying on the floor, which right after the set, I'll get down and show you on the floor. So we're going to start your hip bones, pubic bone on the edge of the bench. You're holding the bench for support. You can have your head down, face down, or you can keep your head up with your shoulders pulled back. Abdominals are engaged. We're not letting our back arch here. We're pulling the ribs to hips and gently pulling that belly button away from the bench. One leg is going to stay down and turned off. You can actually even just gently push the toe down into the floor to engage and make sure that those hips stay even so that we're not having a rotation in that SI joint. You're going to contract your hamstring, okay, and you're going to gently flex your foot. You don't want an aggressive flexion here. We just want to press up with our heel. We're focusing on that up phase. The hip extension in this phase, we only come into where we feel the glute. We don't want to come into a reverse hyperextension where we're feeling into the low back, right? So we want to make this a glute by coming down just a little bit and then glute. Getting rid of, you don't want to contract the hamstring too hard because then you'll feel hamstring. Every time you're breathing out, you're being reminding yourself of your shoulder blades and of the contraction between the ribs and the hips. Every time you breathe out, you're pulling that belly button in. Nice, slow, controlled movement. So you're really making sure the glute is doing the work and not the ligaments and tendons of that hip complex. Take a quick little breather, relax that lower back because it is engaged in an isometric contraction of the core. Going down, pressing the other foot, coming into that hamstring contraction and easing it off a bit, coming into that dorsiflexion and then easing it off a bit. Shoulder blades down. Remember to go into that negative a bit more and then up just to about neutral. That's where you're going to make sure that you're not getting into that SI joint. We're just getting the glute here. So about 15 to 20 repetitions on each side. Same thing you can do on the floor, on a mat. You can have the pillow underneath your hips if you need a little bit. Contract ribs to hips, and we're going to bring that leg up. This is a really good test to know if you're hamstring dominant in your hip extension. If you're feeling a lot of hamstring and not glute, okay, we might need to roll out the quad, and that will turn off the hamstring, usually. All right, so 15 to 20 there. Again, making sure you're pulling those abs in nice and tight so that you're feeling the glute. So keep that glute contraction. It's like you could slide a sheet of paper underneath you. Focus on that breath. And then I always like to come up for a little bit of a stretch. Or if you're feeling it, you can come up for a Mackenzie stretch. This is a good one for sciatic. Okay, it's great for the piriformis and great for that lower back release.